Okay, thanks, Amanda. We're ready to go live when you are.
All right, we're live.
Welcome to the Joint Community Advisory Group and Equity Advisory Group meeting. My name is Lisa Kyohokololi Shower, and I am joined by our facilitator, Dr. Roberta Hunt, for the Equity Advisory Group, and our Principal Equity Officer, John L. Bell. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to run through the slides, and then our co-chair, Ed Washington, will welcome the group. So with that, we'll move over to some of our meeting logistics that make it easy for our community to engage with us and our advisory groups to stay in touch with the slides and the meeting. So our closed captions are in English and in Spanish. English closed captions are available within Zoom and YouTube. Users can follow this link to view both English and Spanish captions in a separate browser window. At the bottom middle of your screen, you should see a menu of options. If you can't see the menu, hover your mouse over the bottom middle of the screen. Click the square CC icon towards the right of the menu to toggle captions on. Click the sub-menu up arrow to access more settings, including language, font size, and font color. We have an ASL interpreter in addition to closed captions. To make sure the interpreter is always visible, please right-click their video and select Spotlight. We have done this. If it changes at all during this meeting, feel free to move through this process of right-clicking and spotlighting the ASL interpreter. For those watching on YouTube, when we screen share, you will only be able to see the slideshow, closed captioning, and the ASL interpreter. You will likely still be able to hear different people speaking, but you may not be able to see them. We will pull down the slides when there is a group discussion, so you're able to see the advisory group members engaging with one another. Our public input instructions, there will be an opportunity to provide brief public input later in the meeting. We suspect this may be between 5:35 and 5:45, depending on the flow of the meeting and the presentations and the engagement with the community and equity advisory group members. Verbal public comment will be welcome in the Zoom webinar during the designated time with the option to turn on your web camera. The link is located in the meeting description on the YouTube meeting page or on the IBR KEG EAG meeting webpage. Commenters will not be allowed to share screen and will be removed from the room once the public comment period concludes. If you'd like to participate and dial by phone, you may do so at 669-900-6833 or 408-638-0968. We ask that you enter meeting ID 897-7533-8358. The passcode is 701942. We won't admit you into the meeting until the public comment period. Go ahead and dial *9 to raise your hand, and after you're invited to speak, dial *6 to unmute yourself. We're excited that you're here to join us today, and we ask that you enter the space either by phone or computer, but not both. We encourage you to turn on your video. We ask that you keep your audio on mute when you are not speaking. And if you have any experience with technical difficulties, we ask that you contact our program staff at 360-329-6744. Our advisory group meeting space is really a space that we hope is safe, that is focused on relationships, that ensures that we have a common goal, that we're noticing the power dynamics in the room, we're creating a space for multiple truths and norms, that we're kind and brave, and that we're looking for learning. So these are all meeting commitments that we've made to one another. We are now in our fifth year of meeting together as separate advisory groups and then often coming together in joint space. And we're excited to have both community and equity advisory group members here today. Our agenda includes an icebreaker, a recap on our community benefits advisory group, which will be led by Lucy, a program update. Our program administrator, Greg Johnson, is needing to be in multiple spaces, but we hope that he'll be able to join us at about 4:50 today. We'll also have an IBR workforce outreach and updates presentation by Barbie Alexander. I was able to see a bit of the slides ahead of time and excited for this advisory group to hear and participate in this presentation. And then lastly, we'll talk a little bit about our architectural elements workshops that we're preparing for and very excited about. So we have Katie Bellaconi in the space to help walk through what to expect as we move forward with our next two meetings. We'll have public comment and we'll conclude with some next steps and wrap up. Okay, with that, our co-chair, Ed Washington, is here. Lynn Valenter wasn't able to make it. She is traveling with family. And so with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Ed to welcome everyone. I'll go ahead and take the slides down and go ahead, Ed.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay, everybody? You can? Okay, well, welcome to the meeting today. It's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to get together with all of you. And it is just so hard to believe that we're going in past the fourth year and into the fifth year. And it seemed really just like yesterday that we all started. But I would like to just thank each and every one of you from the Citizen Advisory Group and also from the Equity Advisory Group, Community Advisory Group, and the Equity Advisory Group. It's nice to have the opportunity to spend some time with you. And I'd also like to send a very special thought to Europe, I believe, where Lynn is, with all that she does on behalf of her community and this committee. I'm sure that her vacation is a well-deserved one. And so to everybody else, look forward to a very, very special meeting this evening. And I'm going to turn it back over to Lisa. Lisa?
Thanks, Ed.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry about that. It's time for everybody to introduce themselves. That's what I forgot about. So you can start in any way that you would like. Just don't try to do it all at once.
I think I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Hunt, who will lead us through some intros and icebreaker.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So Roberta Suzette Hunt, she, her pronouns, and our icebreaker, we have a Mentimeter poll, and the poll was emailed to everyone. So check your email for the Mentimeter code, then visit menti.com, MENTI.com, and enter the code to join the poll. The question is, what are the events happening in your communities this summer? Right. So does everyone have access to the Mentimeter?
Whose email address would it have come from? Because I'm not seeing anything in my inbox from IBR.
Lucy, whose email would that have come from?
Dr. Hunt, I can jump in and let you know it came from EAG admin.
Thanks.
Or
Barb.
CAG admin. if you're
Yes,
on the
so folks who
CAG.
are members of the EAG, it came from EAG admin. For folks who are members of the CAG, it came from the CAG admin account. And I would say check your spam if you're not seeing it right away, just in case.
So some of the events that we have are the Sunflower Summer Fair is happening this Saturday at the parking lot, the intersection of Southeast 110th and Powell. And on September 7th, there's Multicultural Kids Festival at Ventura Park Elementary. Juneteenth, Sunday Parkways is happening in Cully, June 29th. Movies in the park, concerts in the park, lots of community music with city parks. Clark County Fair, first week in August. The Pollinator Festival, Marshall Park in Vancouver this Saturday from 9 to 3. We have an event on August 23rd at Westmoreland Park, the Cathedral Park Jazz Festival in St. John's, the City of Vancouver Summer in the City series, Sunday Sounds concerts at Columbia Tech Center and the Waterfront concert series, a walk with refugees this Friday, 6/20, starting at 5:30 p.m. at Salmon Street Fountain, celebrating World Refugee Day, the Awami Youth Expo, July 31st, 4 Days of Aloha in Esther Short Park, the Vancouver Arts and Music Festival, July 31st through August 3rd at Esther Short Park. Pride Festival, both in Portland and Vancouver. Serbian Fest is on September 13th and 14th in Milwaukee. The People's Market. The Farmers Market weekends in downtown Vancouver. Great. All right, My People's Market on June 28th and 29th from 12 to 6 at the Rose Quarter Commons. So there will be an additional poll later in the agenda. And so please keep this poll open on your device. All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody. So we have the Tonga Day celebration in August at Portland Gateway Park. And support our local farmers and go you picking for strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, cherries, the like. Fabulous. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right. And so I'm going to pass to, I think I'm passing to you. Is that correct, Lucy?
Yes, indeedy.
All right. So you're going to talk with us about the Community Benefits Advisory Group.
Sure am. So tonight I am stepping in for my colleague Emily. Unfortunately, she is under the weather, but I'm really happy to be here tonight on behalf of the Community Benefits team to give an update on the Community Benefits Advisory Group now that the group has sunset, and also give you all a preview on what comes next with the CBAG's recommendations. And so here's a very high-level overview of the Community Benefits Advisory Group's process. And so it started with visioning, meaning asking ourselves, if we all woke up tomorrow and construction was complete, what would our community look like? And we kept it really broad, which helped us get a sense of what is most important to our communities. And it also helped us avoid prematurely limiting ourselves in what we hope to achieve by not getting stuck in the finer details too early. Then came brainstorming, which helped to put our visions into clearer areas by topic. And this still involved a lot of open discussion as well as small group work to bring in every voice of the group, while also, again, starting to focus more and getting ideas maybe categorized by topic area. Next came reviewing and refining. And so this is when the work really started to become much more specific and grounded. And so incorporating the findings from the draft supplemental environmental impact statement, as well as incorporating the expertise from our technical teams, really helped the CBAG refine the language of their recommendations as a group. The second to last step was confirmation. And so CBAG members voted using a modified consensus format, and that finalized the language of the recommendations. And so that final step brings us to the final recommendations. And so the final list contains 55 recommendations total, which again, these were envisioned, brainstormed, reviewed, refined, and confirmed by the CBAG. Next slide. And so throughout that process and within those 55 recommendations, some clear themes came to the forefront that I'd like to share with you all now. And so first is the user experience. Central to our work is the reminder that a bridge construction project is quite literally about connecting communities and the people within and around them. And so thinking about people interacting with this bridge, whether by car, transit, bike, walking, rolling, however it may be, considering their day-to-day experience. Next is construction impacts. This will be a long construction project, and we're not shying away from considering how that will impact our communities. So there are specific recommendations for how the program will mitigate those impacts and proactively engage with our communities to support them during construction. And then we have considerations for the implementation of these recommendations. And so a common question that came up during the CBAG's discussion was often simply, how? How do we do this? Keeping recommendations grounded and aligning them to standard practices and seeing how they intersected with documents such as the modified locally preferred alternative. And again, that supplemental environmental impact statement was critical. Also thinking about costs, not just the initial costs, but costs associated with ongoing operations and maintenance were also key considerations. Next slide. The next thing was community voice. Are we engaging the right people on this important work? And so ensuring that we engage with people with lived experiences, really trying to apply this concept of nothing about us without us. We don't want to speak on behalf of others. We want to invite all voices into the space to make sure that they are heard. And then finally, environmental considerations. And so everything from materials used in construction to green spaces and incentives for contractors to incorporate climate forward solutions. Next slide. And so now that we have this list of 55 recommendations, we are analyzing them with IBR program staff, meaning our technical experts across all of the disciplines within the program, as well as the Department of Transportation and transit agency representatives, to understand the different factors that determine whether recommendations can become commitments. The key considerations during the analysis include analyzing the crossover with other aspects of the program, such as, again, that SEIS and mitigations, and whether recommendations align with existing standard requirements or practices, or which recommendations are within the scope of the agencies, and considerations around timing for procurement, as well as identifying the responsible party, the mechanism for implementation, and funding sources. So a lot of real key factors here. And so these key considerations were used to create 4 specific decision factors: budget feasibility, ease of implementation, level of impact on design, and then policy priority and outcome. Next slide. After the analysis, the recommendations will move to the final decision-making by IBR program leadership and the owner agencies to make commitments. After this, the program will coordinate with the appropriate parties for implementation, such as incorporation into design plans, or third-party agreements, or contract documents. And finally, these efforts will be reflected in a community benefits plan. And so as we all know, timelines often change on projects like this, and so the timing of the community benefits plan will be tied to a specific project milestone rather than a date. And so for us, that milestone that we're looking at is when the final environmental impact statement is published. Next slide. And so here I just wanted to highlight some of the accountability pieces for this work as it moves forward. And so future updates on this work will be provided through future meetings such as these, as well as publicly sharing the community benefits commitments. The ultimate community benefits plan will provide an overview again of that CBAG's process, as well as the list of community benefits commitments, as well as information regarding the implementation and tracking of those commitments. And so again, look for that document after the release of the final environmental impact statement. And before I open it up for questions, both the EAG and the CEAG each have a member who also served on the CBAG. And so Vicki and Tom, I wanted to open the floor to you both on any reflections or key takeaways from your experiences that you wanted to share in this space.
Oh, well, thanks for the heads up. Think ahead on that one. It was a really good experience. What I took away from it most of all was how fantastic it was to sit down with the mayor of Vancouver and representatives from the city council in Portland, all at the same table, and bureaucrats from both jurisdictions, and everybody sort of talking as equals about the needs and the possibilities. So just to be a regular citizen at the table and have my opinions heard and honored was just a really kind of powerful experience for me. So I appreciated that very much about the opportunity.
I'm Vicki Nakashima, and I enjoyed and appreciated the opportunity to serve on the community benefits committee and the equity advisory committees. The people involved and appointed to those committees represented such a vast spectrum of interests and backgrounds and points of view and expertise that I think really contributed deeply to the recommendations. And the process allowed everyone to have their voice engaged in the discussion and respected for their point of view. And I found the group to be just meaningfully collaborative in terms of if there was something that another member didn't understand why you might suggest it, it gave an opportunity to really vet some of those concepts and provide background. So there was plenty of time and respect offered to hearing different points of view. And I guess that isn't always so common in our day-to-day work. The other thing is that it's a regional issue, and we often are siloed into, well, I live in East Vancouver, but this affects everybody in the region and in both states and the country, because it really affects the Interstate 5 highway system, commerce, environmental issues. It's so broad reaching, and it made, I think, Tom, you would agree, we made all of us think about a bridge in a much different way.
No, thank you both for sharing those reflections. Did anyone here have any questions about the CBAG, the recommendations, or the work or next steps? I know, again, I'm filling in for Emily, but any answer that I don't have for you immediately, we will absolutely follow up with you directly afterwards. So please don't shy away from questions. Brenda?
Hi, yes. Hi, everyone. Brenda Martin. I'm a project manager at the City of Portland. I think I just wanted, as someone who got to sit through a lot of these meetings, they were really great. And I know that with the group sunsetting, it's really going to be looking to these two committees to kind of continue to follow the recommendations that are made by IBR, and also just to hold kind of the entire program and partners kind of accountable to the commitments and recommendations that were made by the CBAG. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that and kind of mention it, that that has kind of been stewarded over to these two committees. And I think that, you know, it behooves us to continue to see that new role that we'll be playing over the next 6 months as we start seeing the recommendations come from the program and making sure that we're able to kind of elevate that and represent those through our own communities. So, our work is never done, and I'm happy to be doing it with all of you.
Thank you for sharing. Ed? You are on mute, Ed.
Just a question, Tom and Vicky, when you all met, did you meet with the City of Portland Council as well?
We had representation. Mingus Maps was on the committee until he retired as a commissioner, and then they had other sort of. I'm not sure what the protocol was for who they brought in, but there were other sort of upper level chief of staff kind of folks.
Okay.
I can share with that, Mr. Washington, if I may, as the city's representative.
Yeah, let me just ask you why I'm asking. I was just curious that since the city council was this before the city council change or after the city council change?
It crossed the transition. We started before with the old city council, and then we didn't wrap up until last month. So there was however long it's been since the election.
I was just curious of not in trying to uncover anything, but what was it like, the fact that you had to make that shift from the old council to a totally brand new council? Was there any things in there that was overwhelmingly different, or that you experienced with the new council? Because I'm not trying to say were they good or bad, nothing like that. I was just curious because that's quite a change in the middle of the stream.
It is quite a change, and I was disappointed to have Mingus drop off the committee when he did, because we did lose the momentum that he represented. And when the new people came on, they kind of came on at the tag end of the process.
Right.
So I think that their engagement was not as deeply developed as when we had the original committee together.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and I'd like to share that our representative, once Commissioner Maps was done with his term, we had our Deputy City Administrator, Priya Dhanapal, who oversees the Public Works bureaus, as our representative, and she was appointed by the mayor to represent the city of Portland on the committee.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
John Gardner, I see your hand.
Yeah, hey, when were those sent out? I don't remember seeing the 55 recommendations.
I will actually have to get back to you on that as the not sender. So I've taken note of your question and I will follow up with the team. Thank you, John. Vicky?
I wanted to comment. There were people like Ed Washington and others who brought forward the history of what happens with large infrastructure projects and how they're dealt with in terms of community. And I just wanted to point out that I think it was last week they announced the city appointment, a City of Portland City Council authorized the payment of reparation that goes back to address a lawsuit filed 2 years ago by a group of homeowners that were impacted because of I-5, the freeway, or the building. Well, I don't know the specific projects, but they went and it included Legacy Emanuel's expansion. And they won that lawsuit, and the city agreed to pay a reparation payment to some number, like 25, 30 identified families who own property in that expansion area, and they ruled in their favor. And that's been an issue of contention for the communities of color that have been affected by maybe not addressing the engagement of communities in the decision making. And so it is my hope that the Equity Advisory Committee and Community Benefits function will continue through the next phase of this particular bridge project, because it certainly can lose its momentum. And I would like to see that discussed.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if I could weigh in on that issue, the program is committed to having an advisory group that represents the communities on both sides of the river throughout the construction phase. So we haven't decided on what that will look like yet, whether it will be 2 committees moving forward or 1 consolidated committee that has all of the charges of the Community Benefits Advisory Committee, the equity framework that was created, as well as all the commitments developed in the CAG. So right now, the commitment is to have a committee that represents all of those elements, either 1 or 2 committees that moves forward for the life of the program.
And I'd like to say, Greg, that the team has been phenomenal. You know, the attention and the work that the equity team and Jonelle's group provided, and the leadership was phenomenal. And I think from a community member standpoint, and from having been a former ODOT employee in civil rights, I just greatly appreciate what we're trying to do to overcome and avoid mistakes that were made in earlier projects that affected the Black community and all the communities that were affected. So kudos to you and to the IBR staff, because everybody paid attention. It wasn't just the equity people, the architects and the planners and the designers. They all were at the table.
And I agree with you, Vicki. I think the team has done a fantastic job, but as the old saying goes, the proof is in the pudding. So we're getting ready to start the construction phase, and all of the good things that have been promised and committed to, making sure that those things happen is going to be the charge and the challenge of this next iteration of the advisory groups. So having folks dedicated like yourselves to seeing this thing through is going to be tremendously important.
Lucy, did you see any other questions or comments on the Community Benefits Advisory Group? Not seeing any others.
I don't. But if questions come up for anyone afterwards, do feel free to reach out to the program. We're happy to, answer those questions as they come to you. And just want to thank you all for your time today.
Thank you.
Greg arrived at the exact perfect time, because we were just wrapping up that presentation, and I think your feedback was really helpful. We are ready for the program administrator update, if you're ready.
I am ready. Thank you, Lisa. So let's go to the next slide. So the program continues to be tremendously busy doing a number of things. So the pictures to the right of the slide represents a event that was put on by the Clark County Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Group, where we actually rode bikes, and some folks rode a bus to different elements of the City of Vancouver and Clark County's bicycle network to understand the needs and how we would be tying in things to this network and the importance of it. So it was a tremendously well-attended event. And like I said, anytime you get an opportunity to ride, and the day was just absolutely beautiful to ride on. And it was a lot of fun. So we continue to do events like that. This past weekend, our team had a table at the Pride and the Juneteenth Festival in Esther Short Park. I had the opportunity to partner with Mayor Ann to staff the free speech corner. We had intended to only be out there for 2 hours. We were there for 3.5, talking to folks. So our team, I think, talked to 120 folks at their booth. Mayor Ann and I talked to 40 or so different people who stopped by to see the posters we had up and have those intimate conversations. So the importance of it is that we are continuing to be out in the community to answer questions, to dispel some of the misinformation that's being spouted out there about different things. So if this group has events that they would like us to show up at, please let us know. We also completed the online open house and public comment period for Section 106, which is regarding natural resources within the corridor of I-5. So that document is being finalized and moving forward. So we also have been making presentations. We were in front of the Oregon Transportation Commission, Bi-State Tolling Subcommittee. We have been talking to Metro and JPAC and TPAC regarding a large amendment to the statewide transportation improvement program and the metropolitan transportation improvement program called the STIP and the MTIP. And the purpose of this is, as we are wrapping up the environmental phase of the project, we are moving into where now we are going to be delivering the project. So that amendment is $1.9 billion that we are seeking. And that is to start buying right-of-way, to start relocating utilities, and to start procuring the services of a contractor and designer to finish the major bridge, the Columbia River Bridge design and enter in construction. So this is tremendously important for the team to move into this more delivery-focused mode. We were at the Latino Community Resource Group. We had a table there, the College County Local Emergency Planning Committee, and once again, the City of Vancouver Juneteenth tabling. So any events you guys feel that would benefit from having our team there, please let us know and we will try and get it scheduled. So next slide, please. So here are some of the other things. We're going to be at the Portland Juneteenth event this coming up Saturday. The following Saturday, we're going to be at Good in the Hood. We've been at Good in the Hood for, I think, the past 4 years. So we have Northeast Cully Sunday Parkways, which we will be at, Fort Vancouver Picnic in the Park, the Mississippi Street Fair, Vancouver Saturday in the Park Pride, and Portland Pride. So all of these events are things that we can reach out and meet with folks, answer questions, and make sure that their voices are heard. One of the things that my impression from my time standing with the mayor last Saturday is we heard so many positive comments just saying, get this thing done. So we often hear negativity around the program. A lot of positivity, a lot of folks who want to see this get done. Now, there was concerns about tolling. Folks, that is a large concern, but we explained that this bridge in its earlier iterations has been tolled 2 times in its past. So that's not anything new for this location. But the conversations were very cordial. We invited the critics to come out and talk to us. And I don't know if they were afraid to go one-on-one, but they did not show up. So we'll continue to invite them at anywhere we're at to have the conversation. So with that, I think that's my last slide, and I'll take any questions or concerns that, take that back. It's not my last slide. So we've talked about the STIP, and once again, it's the capital improvement plan for when you use state and federally funded dollars on transportation projects. So this funding has to be programmed. It has to be approved by TPAC and JPAC to in order for it to obligate those state and federal dollars. And it covers several years. So that's why we are asking for these amendments to happen now. So once again, we need to make sure that we have the dollars available to go into the right-of-way phase, as well as the what are called pre-construction phases of moving utilities, getting the right-of-way bought, and having entering into the procurement process to get a contractor on board. So is there one more slide? So yes. So these are the things that will be funded through the this amendment. And as we told TPAC and JPAC members, this is only the first of many times that we will be coming back in front of those agencies for to amend in dollars to continue the construction phases of this work. So you can see these are the early packages that we will need to fund to get this program underway. And what I neglected to do was give you an update on our timeline. We are we've hit some hiccups with our federal reviews, but we are still hoping to hold to having the record of decision, which is that final step in the federal process that allows us to go into construction. We are hoping to hold that to the first quarter of 2026, which means we would be able to begin construction soon thereafter. So the team is working furiously to make up days and times for the slippage, but once again, it's a complex project with a lot of different eyes reviewing things. So, but with that, I will take any questions or concerns that that you may have. Here are the meetings, and where folks can have their voices heard. We cannot advocate for folks to show up and make their voices heard, but you are free to look at these. They're on our website, and show up and comment as you may feel appropriate. So with that, I do believe that's my last slide. Well, close. This is our schedule slide, and once again, wrapping up the environmental phase, that first quarter of 2026. going into start is going to be key important to keeping the program on schedule, meeting that in-water work window for the bridge in the fall of 2027. Tribal consultations are ongoing with the 10 federally recognized tribes, and the community engagement is robust as demonstrated in the previous slides. So now I believe that's my last slide.
Dina.
So I have to ask, with the slippage in the schedule, and it sounds like you're looking at the in-water work window for fall of 2027. The U.S. Coast Guard permit that is needed for the project, do you know sort of what the timeline is for when that process would start, and comment period and so forth, and then when you would need to have that in hand in order to proceed forward?
So, Dina, great question. We just had a meeting 2 weeks ago with the Coast Guard and Army Corps. Good conversation. They understand that we will be submitting a navigational impact report sometime either late this month or early July. And that's going to be the beginning of a more in-depth conversation about whether a movable span or a fixed span bridge of 116 feet will be the selected bridge type at this location. So that conversation will continue on. There's probably going to be a political element to it, but we're hoping by July they will have all the documents in hand to give us a decision on our request for a 116 fixed span bridge.
Megan?
Hi, Greg. Meg Johnson here, she, her pronouns. I heard you talking about talking with the recognized tribes, the federally recognized tribes. How about the Chinook? I know that they don't have federal recognition, but they are a deep part of this part of the world.
So that is a controversial issue. We can only have conversations with federally recognized tribes. We know that the Chinook was seeking their federal recognition, but that is a controversy amongst other tribes. So we are hewing very closely to what the rules allow us to do and who to interact with on this issue.
Thank you, Greg. Zachary?
First of all, we got to all just recognize Megan's W Crushers, or whatever name in your name, was awesome. I feel like it's like the best Sunday softball team name or something. I was just curious, Greg, you mentioned that the critics that wouldn't show up. I'm curious who those people were that you invited and what'd they say? Oh.
So a week ago tomorrow, we were at CTRAN. Some very strong opinions in the public comment period, some disparaging of the program, some disparaging of me personally. So, and at that meeting, I invited them either come to our office hours, sit down and talk to us to get the right information, because there's a lot of misinformation that is out there. Folks saying, well, don't build this bridge, build a third bridge. And we've been telling folks a third bridge will not happen until this issue at I-5 gets settled. Some folks saying, well, if you don't build light rail, you can take that money and do other things. That is not the case. So we're trying to combat the misinformation that's out there. And the best way is to come in, sit down with our folks. We will take as much time as possible to give folks the right information. So no one has signed up for office hours. No one came out to Esther Sharp Park on Saturday to engage with us. We'll engage with folks anywhere, anytime, because the case we make is a very strong case.
Is this part of like the anti-transit component contingent into Washington, like that what happened a decade ago?
It is. It is a continuation of that very thing. And what I tell folks who are advocates, very few people show up at these type of meetings, at these CTRAN board meetings. You hear such negativity, but when we were in the park, all we heard were folks saying, yeah, it only makes sense to build light rail. So the folks who are advocates for it need to show up. They need to make their voices heard. So there's not this impression that this is not anything that folks want to see. We've told them that we've heard from the advisory groups and the community advisory groups, and the community advisory group says yes, build light rail. So we need to make sure that voices are reflecting what the community feels and not just the naysayers.
Other questions?
I just wanted to clarify when you said the Coast Guard permit and having all the information in July, is July when you expect them to issue a decision, or when do you anticipate that decision on the clearance to be provided?
We think the Coast Guard, they have the option of a 30-day public comment period or a 60-day public comment period. So we don't know which they will select, but so we think at the earliest it'll be August before they go through their processes and issue us either reinforce that their existing preliminary navigation clearance determination stands, or that they amend it to allow a 116-foot fixed span. All right, if no other questions, we can go back to the rest of the presentations.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Thank you. And I am passing to Barbie, and you will talk with us about workforce.
Thank you, Dr. Hunt. I'm Barbie Alexander. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the DBE and Workforce Equity Compliance Specialist working on the IBR program. Next slide. And it's time, this is a great opportunity. We'll go ahead and grab our Mentimeter again. We have advanced to the next question. We have one more question. And this question is around workforce development. What are one or two words that come to mind when you think of workforce development? Well, as you can see, folks are starting to throw some things in here, and you can see that workforce development means a lot of different things. It's career development, it's equity opportunities, it's developing both your own skills, learning new skills, engagement of DBEs, it's supporting the teens all the way through retirement, folks returning to the job market, it's apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships, career development. It is many things. And I think that this word cloud really underscores how wide and diverse that workforce development can be, especially when it comes to the intersection with small and local business support and development. So that's where I'm focusing my update today. And we can come back. Please keep adding information and we can go on to the next slide. So since the beginning of the year, the IBR program, and I'm just kind of waiting for that slide, but I wanted to let you know that since the beginning of the year, the IBR program has engaged in numerous community outreach events, both the extensive list that Greg has already outlined, which is centering the ability to connect with community, meeting them where they are, which is essential, as well as engaging in many activities that are focused on workforce development, as well as small and local business outreach and support. And most importantly, and because there is so much considerable overlap, we are seeking to leverage that intersection. So some of the ways that, or some of the things that we've engaged in just since the first of the year, the CSI Industry Forum, ODOT AHEC Partnering Forum, the Apex Building Bridge Conference, which was bringing together small businesses with local agencies, Tabor 100, all the way up in Seattle, making sure that we are widely reaching out. We also hosted an elementary school, the Bridger Creative Science School, for a tour and a presentation, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in an upcoming slide, as well as the East County Youth Summit, where we conducted a Let's Build a Bridge workshop. We also engaged in the Youth Infrastructure Fair at McDaniel, which was really focused on engineering, architecture, trades. We have also had a recent presentation at the PCC Opportunity Center, allowing us to present the IBR information and getting small businesses connected with our IBR vendor portal. Recently, the Transportation Resource Board invited Greg Johnson to present on our very robust workforce outreach strategies, and we participated in the 32nd annual Awami Trade Show. We attend NAMAC meetings as well as presentations with the Association of Women and Minority Businesses in Washington. We recently held today a DBE goal setting information session with the guest speaker, nationally recognized expert, Colette Holt. And for the second year in a row, we hosted the Washington Apex Bridge Building Block Series, which was held in person at our offices in Vancouver. But both Oregon and Washington businesses, about 60 businesses, participated throughout the series, as well as all the way back to Business Expo West, which is a STEAM Pathways Summit that brought community and students looking to seek careers to find out about what are the opportunities on the IBR program. And lastly, and most recently, we participated in the 2025 Safe from Hate Summit, where we gathered information on what are best practices around respectful workplace on construction sites. Next slide. So some upcoming community workforce outreach events. On June 17th, tomorrow, We will be hosting at the Port of Portland. Thank you so much, Port of Portland, for their generous supporting and hosting of the Columbia-Willamette Regional Workforce Collaborative. We're bringing together career coaches and management and executive staff from across 9 Southwest Washington, Clackamas, WorkSource offices, as well as Work Systems, Inc. We will be hosting in July a US DOT Small Business Transportation Resource Center bonding education program. We'll be offering this hybrid because businesses across our region will be able to participate and will also have an opportunity to come in to the offices and participate. And as you've heard mentioned before, we're looking for this summer, hopefully by the end of July, you'll have more than 30 days notice. We're looking for we're looking towards a virtual webinar, which will be our IBR industry update. So we've got a lot of really exciting stuff going on, and not to overwhelm you, but I'd love to dive deep into some of one of the things that we did participate in. So next slide. So this is and I think there's this video we'll play, maybe. And this is the kids out on the bridge with our own Megan Hodges leading the tour. The students traveled by their own school bus. They stopped at Delta Park and as well as Vanport and the site, the memorial site of the Japanese internment, and saw the Expo Center. And they came at it from a perspective of an ethnobotanical infrastructure tour, which I thought was pretty cool. And our IBR staff took them down to the bridge and gave them a presentation in the office. And I wanted to share one of the letters. And he says, I'm grateful for the field trip and showing us the bridge and all about it, and the lunch space, engineering information, tonnage and counterweights, financial information, and Vanport history. I only have so many words to express my appreciation. It's just crazy being able to get in contact with you and your team, let alone go to the actual bridge. You gave us drawings of the future bridge with color copies showing you really cared and put many resources in us and went above and beyond. Our team really does an outstanding job connecting with the community, but I wanted to highlight this because this is how we inspire the next generation. We know that students coming out of high school can join a pre-apprentice and apprentice programs and work on this project and journey out. They could even potentially start their own small business by the end of this project. And thinking about that life cycle and that path, that if directed correctly, it really shows how important it is to inspire and engage students when they're making that decision. Research shows that over 70% of professionals made their decision of what career they were going to go into at the age of 12. So it's incredibly important that we're engaging both at elementary level, high school level, college level, and community and beyond. And this student also was so inspired. If you look in the picture, there is one of the old tokens that he was given by staff. And he also represented the only stoplight on I-5 and his model. This submission was submitted to the Oregon Historical History Day competition. It won second. First prize went to the Vanport. So very exciting. Next slide. And as we move from elementary, another area that we really like to focus on are high school students that are transitioning into the workforce. In this example, we crafted a Let's Build a Bridge workshop. So we developed this, it's never been done before, and we formed construction teams. The students were given project roles like architect, engineer, power equipment operator, cement mason, iron worker, construction manager. And they designed and built a brick bridge, a Lego bridge. On those one-pagers that they received, they got the information around what skills are necessary to do this job, what education and or training, what's that path look like, and how much did they make? We heard an outstanding response from the counselors, and we saw the students engage in a way that they asked questions. They waited afterwards because they had more, they wanted to get connected. They wanted to somehow figure out more ways. And this was from a room of over 40 students who started out very, very quiet and not engaging, all the way to building a bridge. We even, for fun, hid little green dinosaurs in their bags of Legos. And when they found a green dinosaur, we stopped all work. And that's actually this picture where I'm saying everyone stop work. And we taught them about the inadvertent discovery process and investigated and discussed what it means to be culturally sensitive and responsive to the community that you're engaging with. Next slide. So one of the final things that recently that we've done on June 3rd, we brought together our small business organization leadership, as well as, I'm sorry, as well as thought leaders from the community. They joined us for a discussion focused on workforce strategies and how they can support small businesses working on the program. We asked the experts, in what ways can we support small and local businesses around workforce strategies? We investigated and discussed things like, what are the strategies for recruiting and retaining workers from all communities? How do we instill respectful workplaces? What are the onboarding and readiness supports that are needed for small businesses to thrive, both for their workforce and for incoming new employees, apprentices, etc.? We also asked them, what would it look like to partner with community-based organizations? How can we help? And finally, we talked about what it's like to navigate labor compliance and reporting, and got some specific information around what are the tools and information that is necessary for small businesses to thrive. We received a really great response, and we're collecting that information along with all of the recommendations that have been gathered over the year and a half that we have been meeting with our small business organization leadership. These best practices and recommendations will be brought for a final meeting before the small business organization group, and they'll have an opportunity to shape, mold, and make final comments. That information will then be presented to our IBR leadership. Next slide. Oh, and that's it for me. See, look, I thought I had more. And so I'd love to open it up for questions. John.
Yeah, thanks, Barbie. I guess I'm still confused. What is the workforce development strategy and what is IBR's specific investment into that going to be?
Well, that is a great question, John. Right now, we have not earmarked any specific funds other than our outreach and education and connecting. We know that these decisions are being made. And so I look forward to being able to put direct funds into workforce development, but that decision has not been made yet.
And Barbie,
and Greg's going to jump in. Thanks.
Barbie, if I could jump in on that. We have a question in front of both DOT headquarters about making a significant investment in workforce training. So we're hoping to use dollars from our grant awards, our federal grant awards to start the process. We don't have full access to all of those dollars because most of those are related to the delivery phase of the project or the construction phase. So we're trying to figure out how we can get some dollars obligated and get those to the workforce organization and subrecipients to start identifying and filling the pipeline for this effort.
Thanks, Greg. And the other thing about the workforce and work systems, the presentation that we're giving tomorrow, we're going to be focusing, it's not a general presentation about the bridge, but there have been many people coming in out of the community, specifically asking the career coaches, how can they get connected with the IBR program? They want to work on our project. And so the career coaches have asked for some direction on what are those highly skilled trades that we can begin to let people know that this is where there is a very high likelihood of need. We're not giving specific numbers. We're not saying we need 15 welders and 100 carpenters, but we're saying these are the scopes that we know that we will have significant growth locally. And we also know nationally, even around our own region, because the number of infrastructure projects that are going on, not to mention Rose Quarter, Burnside Bridge, King County Sewer, there are significant opportunities. And so we'll be focusing on what are those opportunities and what is the path. Miriam.
Thanks, Barbie. And Barbie, I want to give you a shout out because you've just been rocking it. And I'm excited about tomorrow and how we're able to bring together all the career counselors across the bi-state region under the WorkSource awning. John's question got right to my question, so I think he did it. He did it better than I did. I'm a little bit more wordy, but I just want to express a little frustration as it relates to workforce development. And I know this is something that's likely shared with other leads on the project, so I don't think I'm alone in this. But I do think we need to have much more of a specific strategy as it relates and priority as it relates into the workforce development space. And I think your word cloud is really brings that to the forefront, that this can really mean a lot of different things. And, from my perspective, I think having a couple field trips, while that is great, is not a systemic change. And so, with a massive public investment like we're looking at right now with this project, I know I expect more. And I think many of us on this call expect more. And it's not more of you, Barbie, or any of the individuals on this call, but it's having a strategy and implementation plan that, there's been a few years now that should have been, I think, developed at this point. And so we're getting closer to construction. Training takes time. If we have diversity goals as it relates to this project, we are already behind the ball. If we want to have increased women accessing these jobs, specifically from our region, training again takes time. And so, we did a labor market report around what is existing in the talent supply about 1.5 years ago now, as a workforce collaborative, and it articulated many of these challenges that we will be seeing when we look at going live for construction for this project. And so I want to elevate, it's just frustrating because I think, we've had these conversations now for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And we still don't have a very clear strategy or focus. And we're talking about a pretty large investment. So anyway, I think it's important for me to say that here. I am saying it to others too. So I just wanted to be transparent with my representation on this group.
So if I can jump in.
Greg's going to jump in.
Miriam, we feel your frustration. I feel the same frustration. We know that we are behind on this issue. This is covering new ground for the DOTs in this area. Putting this type of money towards workforce development is different for these groups. And we had new leadership at one DOT. We have financial constraints at another DOT. So this is not as simple as it would appear on the surface. But we're going to keep pushing because we know it's the right thing to do. We've got to get people ready to be in this pipeline to get this work done. So we're advocating. We're still pushing to get this done, but it is not easy. Our folks are trying to juggle about 50 different bowling balls and chainsaws at the same time. So we're going to work. We're going to keep working to make this happen and get it done. It's not coming in the timeline we'd like to see it as well. But be assured we recognize the problem and we are still working at it.
Thanks, Greg. I mean, the only thing I'd add to that is use us. I mean, this group is meant to be advocates for the project. And a part of that is that we have a voice of the community and we can elevate messaging and priorities as well. And so however we can assist in that, I know it gets political really quick. But we are here to ensure that these investments are spent in the way that they were intended. And so I think however this, I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone on this call, but this is like why I show up, is to be able to really try to make sure what we promise and what we commit to actually happens. And so I'm happy to be a voice of that in whatever way is needed to get this work done. And my organization as well. So I just to elevate that, that's one core component, I think, of having a community advisory group is to really utilize the voices that you have at the table if they're willing to say something is important. So just wanted to say that.
Understood.
Well, Miriam, you are in oh, Roberta, I'm sorry. Did you raise your hand? Oh,
I did.
I just wanted to, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, but you were speaking, so you finish what you're saying and then I can. Well, you're paying Miriam a compliment. I'm not getting in the way of that.
Yeah, I was going to tell her that it's so incredibly refreshing to have someone passionate and back it up and push. It's important to push, Miriam. So I appreciate that. And I will leave everyone with a little bit of good news, which is, if you saw, there was a recent executive order that came out of the White House that focused on workforce development and projected funds and program opportunities. So I don't know what that means, but I was definitely encouraged to see something very positive focused around workforce development. I think Greg really summarized it very well. This is new for many public agencies throughout our region. I think workforce development is much more robust back east. I think also because they have felt the pain of projects that have suffered significant delays. And every delay is money because there were not trained and skilled workers available. And we know that that is a concern. And I think that our leadership understands that and they're doing everything they can to overcome. And I anticipate good things. But we have to keep pushing.
One thought I was having, Barbie, so I teach in higher ed, and I often notice with workforce, we look at young folks, and I'm at Portland State where older folks are coming and non-traditional learners are coming. And I do think it's useful for us to have an outreach strategy that is thinking about the different career paths that these folks can take. I also know that for work in the trades, for women and for people of color, a little bit of university helps in their trajectory as tradespeople. We also know that for tradespeople, it is not easy getting up at 5 a.m. And also a little bit of maturity for everyone helps in that. And so as we're thinking about our outreach strategy around workforce and workforce development, it really is multi-generational. Yeah.
And Sabrina, I see your hand. I just wanted to respond to Dr. Hunt's comments. I wanted to let you know that I've also been working with Dress for Success in Seattle. They don't have a Vancouver location, but they're working with the Portland, tapping into women returning to the workforce. So I am exactly right where you are. We have that plan. We just need additional funds to execute. But I think it is every layer of the community and also cross-disciplinary, because there are people that leave certain fields because they're burnt out and they have skills that are directly applicable and give them greater earning potential in the trades. So I right in the line with you. Sabrina, thank you for letting me just respond.
Of course, thank you. Sabrina Owens-Wilson with Metro. I just want to kind of appreciate your comments, Miriam, and your question, John. And I think, related to collaboration, I also want to surface Construction Career Pathways, which is an existing collaboration that's focused on these issues. So you all don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think recognizing that there are, there's some unique aspects to this project, but folks that are working on recruitment, retention, funding, workforce development, wraparound services, there's an existing collaboration that I think will really benefit this project and has a lot of overlap with the jurisdictions that are involved in this project.
I couldn't agree more. And that is one of our main strategies on paper, right? So if we are funded, we want to put that money into building the capacity in our community, not trying to reinvent the wheel. So exactly. This is about elevating and connecting the already existing infrastructure to bolster and feed that. And what's more, one of the more successful programs in our region is the Construction Careers Pathway. So thank you, everyone. Any other questions at all? Well, thank you for letting me take your time today.
Thank you for being with the advisory groups, Barbie, and great conversation and feedback. I think we'll go ahead and head into our next section, which is on architectural elements workshop preparations. We're excited to have a couple meetings where we'll be focused on the architectural design elements. So with that, I'd like to invite Katie Belliconi to kick us off. Hi, Katie.
Hi, thanks, Lisa. My name is Katie Belliconi. I know a lot of you, and there are some of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, but I spend most of my time working as part of the public affairs team for the IBR project. The team's really excited to be able to share this opportunity with you this summer. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. I am not sure how many of you are aware that this is kind of the work that you have been identified to be involved with over July and August, but we're really excited to have our design team on the project be able to offer an upcoming workshop in July that's going to be virtual. I think it's July 21st. Again, it will be the combined EAG and CAG from 4 to 6. So this time slot, it's going to be a virtual workshop similar to this setup. And then we're going to have another opportunity to gather in August. That time we're going to get together in person in August 27th. So it is going to be a different day than this group often meets. So August 27th. And we're excited to be able to really share with you what our team has been working on as far as advancing different architectural elements on this project corridor wide. So really, I just wanted to come tonight and be able to share a little bit with you about what you can expect is going to happen at those 2 meetings. They will, of course, be open to the public as these meetings usually are, and there will be regular public comment in there. Just what we do for the bulk of the 2 hours will be very focused on this one topic. It will really be led by members of our design team who are leading this work day in and day out on the project. And they'll be sharing with you kind of different progress on different elements, the way that the project's thinking about advancing kind of these way that these different elements on the project look and feel, and then asking for your feedback. And we can go to the next slide and I can talk a little bit more specifically about what that means. So for the first workshop, there's going to be a section of time where our architect really talks about where we're at in the process as for kind of advancing architectural elements. And by architectural elements, what we mean are, we're not talking about the bridge configuration. We're not talking about the bridge type. So those are 2 separate things, and we can talk about that more in a minute if there's interest, but those 2 things are going to be decided, the bridge configuration, the bridge type, through other ways in the process. This is really talking about no matter which bridge type we end up with on the ones that the project has been considering, how do we want certain elements of this project to look and feel? And so we're really going to be talking about that. And the why now for us is, I think most of you are aware that we're really starting to prepare for construction. And once we've progressed through this environmental phase and we have our record of decision, we plan to, hit the ground running, and we will have procurement documents that will be out on the street. And part of those procurement documents are including language that really gives parameters for a contractor around these elements about what our project would deem acceptable for how we would design certain elements of the project. And again, it's not the big configuration and type, but it still is the main river crossing. So we'll talk first in the first meeting about kind of where we are in the process of this, how our team has really established design goals based on previous feedback, even some from this group over the years, and how we are really setting a minimal acceptable design envelope. That's what we're ultimately going to be doing, is creating a design envelope of what would be deemed acceptable. So there will still be some opportunity for the contractors to present their creative ideas, but we want to be sure we're pretty clear about what our expectations are. And so we end up with a project and a product that we're really proud of and ends up being a visual representation of our community. After the architect really talks about principles of good design for bridges, we'll then spend the rest of that first workshop talking about the main crossing itself. So we'll talk about design constraints at the base, most base level. There are tons of them for this particular geographic area. We'll talk about different typologies of the bridge and kind of key design characteristics. At the second workshop, we're going to continue talking, specific. So we'll go more to the land-based structures away from the main crossing, and we'll talk about the shared use path. We'll talk about light rail, not as much the stations and shelters, but the light rail bridge. I'm going to stop right there because I see, Irina, you have a question.
I'm not sure I understand what are wall treatments.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a wall treatment would be, it's a few different wall types, why we say wall treatment. So like a retaining wall, a sound wall. Do you know what I mean by a retaining wall or a sound wall? Like on the highway, sometimes you drive by, there's those huge walls. Oftentimes they have, they always have a functional reason why they are there. Structurally, are they holding material in place that had to be moved for construction in a big project like this? That will certainly be the case. Sometimes they're sound walls. It's a mitigation to prevent against a noise that's being caused, but it is a very opportune place to, instead of just building, right, a concrete wall and leaving it, it can be a blank canvas to explore what would we want to do with that.
So do I understand correctly that we can call community and have like art gallery on these wall spaces?
Those are exactly the type of things we will discuss at the meeting. I mean, there is going to be opportunity to dream big, I would say, but also it won't be starting from scratch. We do have a team who has designed many bridges, and they're going to come with a lot of their thoughts, and they're really excited to see how you think that they've done, and if there are opportunities or options that you gravitate toward, things you definitely aren't interested in, and everything in between. So there will be opportunity for a lot of conversation. Thanks for pointing out the wall treatments. Landscaping, I think we, second meeting, we'll talk about landscape elements. So this could be station landscape. This might be where we talk about viewpoints. I know that's a big thing we've heard from the community. They're very interested in different viewpoint opportunities on this project. Can talk about landscaping on the shared use path. This may be a time when we talk about what's it going to be like underneath all these big structures that we build, and what do we want to do with those spaces, and then, yeah, the land-based structures kind of listed there, the shared use path, then light rail I mentioned, but also then, of course, the highway and moving into that component of the project. I'll stop right there and take any other questions. I know that was probably a lot of information. It is pretty abstract in some ways to try to describe exactly what we are and are not talking about here, but just wanted to try to provide some of that framework so that you feel more prepared when you step into the space in July, understanding what we're talking about. Megan?
Hi all, Meg Johnson here again. Have we done any reach out with the arts and culture community so far on both sides of the bridge to get their input on this? They would be a fantastic resource, and they're very, very close by, at least on the Vancouver side.
That's a great question. I'm going to look to my other colleagues here on the project. We also have Casey Lyles here tonight with me, our delivery manager. He may know the answer to that question. I'm not sure what exact interface we've had with that group over the years. We have not specifically talked with them about this process that we're in right now. This is kind of, we're bringing this to the CAG and the EAG first and foremost, and where we go next to kind of socialize the feedback we get and the way that this is shaping up. That's definitely a great group for us to kind of keep on our list as a wealth of knowledge.
So Katie, the arts community was represented in full on our Community Benefits Advisory Group. They have given us some great input, and they will be invited to see some of the concepts around the retaining walls and other features in this aesthetic treatment set of workshops.
Wonderful. Thanks, Greg.
Other questions? Okay, Vicky, you have your hand raised. Yeah.
I do. I've been reading a lot about mass timber and what that's doing in terms of reviving the timber industry and mills in Oregon, and how that construction method can be as strong and durable and fire resistant as steel and concrete. And we often go directly to steel and concrete. But one of the things I read recently was an interview of Kengo Kuma, a very well-known Japanese architect, who recently designed the Tokyo Olympic Stadium using mass timber as part of that. Of course, it wasn't used very much because of the pandemic. But his comment is that stuck with me, is that architecture has traditionally been very male. And until I really thought about that, we think of, and I think bridges and highways seem very male. And then when you think of female, and this isn't totally a joke, but somebody told the golf industry, we need to get more women in golf. So they made everything pink. That was their answer to making it more acceptable to women. So I would like this committee to think of an architecture, the design concept, that it doesn't mean that it needs to be weaker, but that there are ways to incorporate a less male oriented design. And I think of like the Tillicum crossing, to me, hits me as less male than the Markham Bridge. It's just this
I
big
do know.
thing.
I think I'm really excited for you to have time with our architects. They would love that way that you're talking and thinking about it, because they're creative minds and very passionate about their work. And it's exactly what we're talking about here. It's not so much the structural things, it's how do we want it to look and feel to be a reflection of our community. So exactly kind of your train of thought. Irina?
Yeah, just side comment. I really like the idea to have the IBR being a pink bridge in the United States. I think that will be so Portland. So that's a great idea. I'm not sure about timber, because I think the climate is such that timber is just not going to survive in this location. But I will read because I really enjoy their airport, the new airport, and they used a lot of timber in the design there. But for the bridge, when it's like always outside in the wind and rain, I have my doubts. But thanks.
Any other questions or comments for Katie or Casey? Okay, I'm going to really tell you how excited I am about this, because I believe that I have heard from the community advisory group in particular that this is an area that you'd like to be able to provide some input. And so structuring these two workshops to have that direct conversation with our architects is very exciting. And we know that while one meeting will be a setup virtually, which is the July 21st from 4 to 6, We are inviting you into the office August 27th from 12 to 2. I know it's summertime. I know folks are planning holidays, but we really, really hope that you will put these dates on your calendar. To our friends that are not online right now, but hopefully are watching later, members of the EAG and the CAG that couldn't be here today, my hope is that you're saving the date for both of these really important workshops. It is what Katie shared, the opportunity to interact directly with our architects and to be able to dream a little big, but also just provide your input. I think Meg's comment about maybe reaching out to other community members, I'll just speak for the community advisory group. We are looking for you to bring your lived experience, but also your perspectives from the communities that you're reflecting and representing. So the setup in July is to help you get prepared and ready so that you're showing up in August, having done a little bit of homework to gather some input and be really present in the space with our architects. So there's a little kind of hype and call to action and just kind of all the things you've been asking for that we're excited to host in these next 2 meetings. Tom, I see your hands up.
Thanks. My question is whether, I mean, I appreciate these opportunities to see what they're thinking and to give them some feedback, but will there be any kind of a feedback loop where we see how our suggestions have been taken into account and whether, the opportunity to comment on whether we feel like our suggestions have had a meaningful influence on what's happening?
That's a great question. I think that, there probably isn't as linear of answer as you would like. I think that for this process, as I said, it is pretty tangible in that we are delivering a product in the near term on this topic, subject matter. And so I would say that the opportunity to kind of see, you're going to see how they're thinking about things and the way they're approaching it and kind of the range of opportunities. And as a group, you're going to provide us feedback. We'll also have opportunities where we're socializing this information with our partner agencies. And so we'll get a different set of feedback from those groups. I think that something like this, where it really is hard to say exactly what will be done concretely based on what is communicated from this group, you can get conflicting feedback on something like this, even within a same group. I guess the commitment is to listen and hear, and the design team is coming because they really want to know if this is hitting the mark, if there's something they're missing. You're going to be able to see once we do kind of finalize this bulk of material that we do move forward into a set. Yes, we can commit certainly to coming back and sharing with the group what did the team end up kind of finalizing in general terms as far as those parameters on these different elements?
I guess what I'm looking for is like some kind of, is there a public comment period kind of thing? Once you come back with actual design elements and we had the public comment on the SEIS, but is there a public comment period on the next phase of design work where people can say, when we talked about a mural area, that's not what we meant. That doesn't make any sense to the community. We see that you heard us, but we see also that you misheard us about things.
I don't think there's going to be a set public comment period. I'm curious to what Greg is going to say, but the way that we see this is an ongoing conversation. There is always opportunity for us to keep talking about us coming back and sharing where we landed and you saying back either in this group, through email, through scheduling in office hours and asking to sit down with these design team members and talking about it more. a continued conversation, because the other thing I will say is this is not the only time we are going to be talking about architectural design elements on this project. Like I mentioned, we're not getting into the details of station and shelter designs right now in this phase, in this conversation. That will come back around at a later point.
Well, that's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
And I just wanted to follow up. We don't want to create false impressions that this is a voting competition. What we want to do is make sure that we get the sense of the community of what's acceptable, so we can put in our procurement document so the contractor understands what his parameters are around these aesthetic treatments, whether it's lighting, whether it's different color, whether it's form liners for piers, all of those things. We want to give him a sense of the community has told us this. You come back and you tell us where you think this can go, and we'll tell you if that hits the mark. So there'll be time for input and continual input as we move this forward. This won't be a one and done type situation. Once we get a contractor on board, he's going to have some ideas of how to incorporate all of these things and what's reasonable from a constructability standpoint of how we can do it. Tom, I don't see you shaking your head yes.
No, I didn't think that that required a response. I agree that there's going to be. I appreciate that there's going to be opportunities to say, hey guys, this little particular idea you've got over here in this corner is not really serving the community the way we had hoped. And I look forward to having those conversations.
Yeah, there'll be continual time for feedback as the contractor is developing his final design plans. You guys will be able to get a look at that and say, whoa, we love that, or what in the hell, we don't like that. So all of those things will play into future conversations.
And the last thing I want to add, just to try to, again, I appreciate the questions, Tom, because this is pretty abstract as far as describing what this is and what this isn't. And it's like, well, what are we really influencing here? And how is this going to work? And are you coming back later? And again, and I said this, but I'll kind of describe it a bit. It's not we're trying not to be overly prescriptive with the contractors. And so how you gave the example of like, no, we said we wanted a mural right here, but that wasn't the right type of mural. I don't imagine that, and I know that was just an example, it's going to be nearly that specific in what we specify for the contractor. We're providing them, our architects call it, like a design envelope, where it's more saying this would not be acceptable to us. This is kind of below what we would think would be a minimal acceptability from the aesthetic point. And then up here is the range of wow, this would be super duper phenomenal and special. This would be okay. Propose to us, dream it up, within this range. And so what we might get from different contractors, it will be, as Greg was saying, their influence on it as well. We're just kind of setting parameters.
So do I understand then that you guys are not providing my career has been in contracting in architectural situations as a painter. But we receive like a fixed set of drawings that's, a roll of drawings, and there's architectural drawings and there's engineering drawings, and it's like you build to these specs or you haven't satisfied the contract. Is that not what you're presenting to the contractor? You're presenting a more broad set of specifications? I'm going to
let our delivery manager answer that.
Yeah, go ahead, Casey.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, so we're currently updating our delivery plan for the program, but we have about 30 different projects that we're going to be undertaking to deliver the entire 5 miles of the program. Some of those projects are delivered in a way that the design builder, for instance, would get the requirements that are being described here to work within the design envelope. Others might be designed by the agency itself using a consultant to control that design all the way through. Another might be that we're working collaboratively in that method, that we design it with the design builder. In other words, they're designing, but we use a constructor to help. So we have various different methods of whether we work with down to the detail, or whether we're looking at those envelope of requirements and we're looking for, one is innovation and collaboration through that process. So you can't, one size doesn't fit all through the entire program on this.
All right, thanks. I think I have a better picture of what we're talking about here then.
All right, so I am abruptly shifting gears to make space for public comment. We're finishing in about 4 minutes. So next slide, please. Comment instructions: to make a verbal comment. To make a live comment via phone, dial 1-669-900-6833 or 1-408-638-0968. The meeting ID is 897-7533-8358. Passcode 701942. Dial *9 to raise your hand. The facilitator will call on participants to provide comment. Dial *6 to unmute yourself. Please provide your name and affiliation. The 10-minute time frame will be divided among the number of requested speakers. If we run out of time and you have not had a chance to speak, you can still provide comments after the meeting. And I am under the impression that we do not have public comment at this time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great. Thank you. And I think, is there one more slide? To submit comments after the meeting, fill out the comment form on the program website or email your comments to info@interstatebridge.org with CAG and EAG Public Comment in the subject line. Call 360-859-0494 for Washington and 503-897-9218 for Oregon, and toll free 888-503-6735, and state CAG and EAG public comment in your message. Written comments need to explicitly say CAG and EAG public comment in the subject line or in the body of the message for them to be identified and distributed to CAG and EAG members. All written comments must be received prior to 48 hours in advance of each upcoming meeting in order to be distributed to advisory group members. Comments received after that point will be distributed to members in advance of their next meeting. Right, so we don't have any public comment for today. Our next program meetings, we have our Community Advisory Group and EAG joint meeting, July 21st from 4 to 6 p.m. virtually, and August 27th in person at the IBR office. And our closing, I'll pass to Mr. Washington. Oh, you're still muted.
Sorry about that. Always throws me off. Thank you all so very much for your participation today. And Roberta, you did a wonderful job. And I appreciate all the excellent questions asked by all the other visiting members or members. And so, unless someone has something else that they would like to say that is earth-shaking, piercing, or whatever, please feel free to do that right now. Just don't do it all at the same time. And if not, just wish you all a wonderful evening, and we'll see you at the next meeting. And remember, just keep on keeping on, okay? Until next time, have a good evening. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. See you.